Hello everybody, it's Kate, the West Coast Paper Crafter. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator on Vancouver Island in Canada. If you are catching this live, then you are joining me tonight on my Facebook page. Welcome, I'm really happy that you're here. And if you're catching this on a replay, you might be catching me on YouTube. And hello, I'm also glad you're here. Say hello, tell me where you are from. So tonight I am going to be kicking off project number 1 of my Amber Autumn card class at home. And I will be using the Amber Autumn bundle each Thursday night from now until the end of October. And I'm going to give you lots of different ideas on how to use this bundle. Hey, Carissa, thanks for being here. You're staying up late. All right, so these are the stamps that I'm using. These are cling stamps. And I'll be using the corresponding dies with this bundle, which cut out these two images, and then these two are just standalone dies for leaf and a little bit of greenery, wheat, I'm not sure what that is, and then this really beautiful background die cut that we'll be using in a future project. Hello Kate, hello Janice, hello Marion from Ohio, and yeah, Carissa, I'm not feeling so good. So tonight I actually have COVID, so I don't feel so good, but I am a little bit jacked up on some Advil, cold and flu and sinus, everything you could possibly stick in an Advil tablet. It's in my system right now. So hopefully I'm not going to make too many mistakes tonight, because I definitely am not, well, I have COVID. I don't feel so good. I've missed a couple of days of work already. I've been sleeping 12 to 14 hours. Which is super unusual for me because I don't sleep that long. And anyway, sore throat, fevers, chills, all the things that come with COVID. So, but don't worry, you can't catch COVID through these videos, so we're all safe. We're all safe. All right, so I will be using tonight an early Espresso A2 card base. Now this is 5.5 by 8.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4 on alongside. There you go, A2 card base. Hello, Christine. You're in Australia? Wow. Hey, Jack. Thanks for tuning in. Jackie, sorry, not Jack. Now, A2 card base. Crumb Cake and Basic White. These are both 4 inches by 5 1/4. The white's going to be for the inside. I have already gone ahead and die cut out 3 leaves with the die cut from this bundle, and I used the Earthen Tones metallic specialty paper to cut these leaves out. I just think they're really beautiful, very shiny, very metallic, very autumn. And for the sentiment, I used a textured notes die to cut this piece of basic white out, and this is 3.5 inches by 3/8 of an inch. If you don't have the textured notes dies, and you can just cut to fit. All right, I've got a little scrap for stamping. I've got my Stampin' blends for coloring, and we are ready to go. So let's start out by creating a background with the acorn stamp on our crumb cake in early espresso ink. Hello, Mary Ellen from Montana. Carissa, you like the metallic paper? Me too, buddy, me too. So I've just got my early espresso ink, and I am going to, hang on, I need a different piece of paper. I need some scrap because I've got this beautiful clean piece of grid paper that I haven't stamped on yet, and I have it down just because I don't want the glare of the the light. I do not want the glare of the light on my glass mat. So I am just grabbing some scrap paper because I'm going to be making a mess. And I don't know about you guys, but when I've got like a fresh, clean sheet of grid paper, I'm not ready to stamp on it, you know? I'm just not ready. Hey, Leanne. Hello, Nancy. All right, so Early Espresso ink, acorn stamp, and then we're just going to stamp a random pattern, oops, on the Crumb Cake cardstock just to create a background. So it doesn't matter where you stamp. We're stamping random, right? We're just going to just whatever floats your boat, just stamp a background. All right, I'm just going to fill in some of my empty space here and right in this corner. And there we go. Easy as that. We have just made our own fancy little background paper with some simple stamping. Early Espresso on Crumb Cake. While I have this stamp out, all right, how did I get that dirty already? Good thing the other side's clean. Hey, Janice, watching from Georgia. I'm just going to add to the corners of my basic white for the inside, like that. I'm just going to put that aside for now because we don't need it quite yet. All right, that's it for the Early Espresso. I'm going to quickly clean my stamp off. Just give me 2 seconds to do that. I've got my little chamois ready to go. Now, my family always forgets that I'm doing live, so you might hear the door slamming here and there, so I apologize about that. They're very forgetful, my boys. Very forgetful. I forgive them. I forgive them. All right. So now, Tuxedo black ink, a scrap of my white paper, and I'm just going to ink this up again and then stamp it down. There we go. Now, there are more than one way to color your images if you're using Stampin' Up! Supplies. Isn't that pretty? All right, so I am going to use my Stampin' Blends, but there's other ways to color, and I'm just going to give you a quick overview right now. So Stampin' Up! Has watercolor pencils. Now, I have done this image using Cajun Craze and Early Espresso watercolor pencils. And then I took this magic little blender pen that's got some sort of a solution. I do not know what the solution is, but there's some sort of magic solution in here. And then I just gently swiped over the pencil and it blends the color. So it's really cool how that does it. You can just take your watercolor pencils and lightly color in the image and then go over it with your blender pen and it smooths everything out. So it's really simple and it's a cheap way to add coloring tools to your collection if you're not interested in adding Stampin' Blends, because I know Stampin' Blends aren't cheap, right? They're expensive. They're my favorite coloring tool, but they are pricey. Hello, Gina Marie. I like your avatar, that's cute. Marie, watching from Alberta, that's my home province. I miss Alberta for more than just the great gas prices. Trust me, there's lots I love about Alberta. And hello, Valerie. Okay, so there we go. Watercolor pencils is one way to do it. With the blender pen to smooth it out. You can also use a water painter as well. But another way you can do it is with ink and a blender pen. So this one, I just used my ink pads in Cajun Craze, Early Espresso, and Pecan Pie. And this might be the absolute cheapest way to color your images. So you just need to get a little bit of ink, either by gently smooshing your ink, your case gently so you don't crack it, so that the case picks up ink, or by adding ink from your ink refill onto a block. Then you just pick up a little bit of color with the blender pen, and then you can actually color in an image just like that. And you don't have to switch blender pens. All you do is scribble out the color until you don't see that color anymore. You can see here when I was scribbling it out, it was dark and then it just disappears. Now my blender pen is ready for a completely different color of ink. So those are a couple options for coloring that are more economical than Stampin' blends, right? So you got watercolor pencils with a blender pen, or your ink pads with a blender pen. This was Cajun Craze, Early Espresso, and Pecan Pie, and then Stampin' blends, which is my favorite, but also the most expensive. So, and I am also very finicky about my blender, my Stampin' blends, because they fray easy, so I'm always super careful with them. Hello, Ellen. Hello, Debbie from Ontario. Thanks for tuning in. I'm no professional, but I mess around, Carissa. I mess around. All right, so for coloring these, I'm just going to do the leaves, same, Calypso Coral. So this is super simple. You can see with this stamp that it's already got the shading. It's going to tell you where to shade, right? So everywhere you see those little black lines and the little scribbles, that's my cue, right? Because I'm not a professional colorer, or I am not a fancy artist, but wherever I see that little shade line, that is where I'm adding my darker color of Stampin' Blend. Now I'm only going to color half of this leaf because I don't want to keep you guys here all night. It is a school night and a work night still. Well, not for me because I have COVID, but for me, it's still going to be an early night, right? So I've just gone in with the dark Calypso Coral, and I colored, or just added color where there's the lines or the shading. And then I also like to, with the leaves, just add a little bit of dark around the entire outline. And then once I've outlined everything, like I said, I'm only going to do this half. Then I'm going to come over it with my light Calypso Coral with the brush tip. I was using the bullet tip for the shading. Now I'm just going to bring in the brush tip, and I am just going to color over everything, and this is going to pull that darker color along with the light, and then these are going to blend in together, and it gives you that look like you've shaded it like a professional, but we're not. We're just, crafting. So little tip here, let it dry in between layers. So if you color it in and you don't feel like the color's blended enough, let it dry for a minute or two and then go over it again with your light color, and that's going to help blend those colors in a little bit better. You want to give it time to dry so you don't fray the paper. Now, for the caps of the acorn, and I won't do it all, but I'm going to use my dark Pecan Pie. I'm going to color in the stem where the lines show me they should have some shading. And then because the top of the acorn looks like it's mostly shaded anyway, I'm just going to darken it up around one edge. Trust me, I'm only playing around with things. I'm not a professional. Now I'm taking my light Pecan Pie, and I'm just going to color in the rest of that stem and the whole cap of that acorn. And I'm just coloring over the dark and then pulling it back over into the light as well, just to help those colors blend a bit more. All right, last, for the body of the acorn, I'm going to use Crumb Cake. So I'll take my dark, same concept. I'm just going to add my dark Crumb Cake wherever those little shade lines are, and then I'll go over it with the light, like so. Simple. All right, so Stampin' Blends 101, right? Super easy. So pretend I colored this all in and I die cut it like magic. Here it is. Hello, Linda from Ontario. You use water pencils with water to blend. Yeah, for sure, for sure. A lot less finicky than the Stampin' Blends, right? Pretty though, hey? All right, so now that's cut out. We can go ahead and put our card together. I need my irregular weave trim, and I'm just going to add a strip of it to the front of the card, so I don't need very much. About this much, I think. Tear and tape, which is my best friend when it comes to sticking down my irregular weave. So I don't want to put it quite in the middle. I'm just going to have it almost in the middle, but higher, closer to the top. But you guys do you, whatever you want to do. Hello, Teresa. Hello, Yolanda from Indianapolis. Sibo's Retreat, beautiful colors. Thank you. I think so too. I'm always struggling to find the end of my tear and tape. There we go. I'm just going to put a tiny little piece down on each side of the back of this Crumb Cake cardstock. I think that'll do. Now, oh shoot, I have misplaced my Take Your Pick tool. That is sad news. I had a clean craft room for all of like 5 minutes last week, and now it's a mess again. So I don't know what I did with my Take Your Pick tool, and I'm going to be cursing myself in a minute because it's so much handier to use. All right, carrying on. I'll survive without my Take Your Pick. That serves me right? I should have a tidier workspace. I really should. All right, so I've just added that irregular weave trim to the front of this stamped layer. Now, what I really love about this irregular weave trim is that it's so flat. It's just super flat, so it's going to be super easy to just glue down to the front of the card base. I'm just going to add some Tombow and stick this down. All right, like so. I can hear my husband and my son arguing outside my craft window. They're driving me bonkers. Those two spend way too much time arguing with each other. I don't know if this is like a normal phase of life when you have teenage sons arguing with their dads, but those two, I'm ready for bed. I'm ready for bed. Hey, Debbie. No senior softball this week, just me. Oh, wow. Thanks for tuning in, friend. I'm always happy to see you. All right, so we've got our card front ready to go. Now, where did I put my, I'm losing things already. Oh, here it is. I need to stamp my sentiment, and I'm going to throw it up right here, just above, just a tiny bit above this irregular weave trim, and then I'm going to layer this acorn over top. So I want my sentiment to be on the right side of this die cut. Otherwise my acorn's going to cover it up. So from the Amber Autumn stamp set, I just grabbed the Grateful for You sentiment because that's going to fit perfectly on my skinny little die cut piece. And I'm going to stamp this right in the middle. So because my phone is in the way, my phone is what I use for recording, I can't get my head right over my stamp, which means the stamp might be crooked. So if that's the case, yeah, it's a tiny bit crooked actually, but not too bad. I usually have a backup that I've done just in case I get it too crooked, right? Because I really do need to get my head right over top of what I'm stamping. Otherwise, I just don't get it straight. Is it a me thing? Carissa, right, I do have impressive glue skills, don't I? Because I scribble my glue. All right, now I need some dimensionals, which I happen to have my minis handy, and hopefully regular size ones too. Yes, I got them both. I'm just going to add the acorn first, and then I'm going to figure out how much I need to trim. All right, so I'm going to make sure that this stem is not poking up like this. I want it at an angle so my sentiment isn't covered over. You know what? Maybe it's safer if I just put the sentiment down first. I'll figure it out. Okay. Just going to add some dimensionals. Now, normally I try very hard to avoid putting my dimensionals right on any ribbon that I'm using, but because the irregular weave trim has got lots of gaps, it's really holy, I guess, if that's the word I'm looking for, but there's lots of negative space in there. I feel like the dimensionals work fine, that they will stick to the cardstock through the little gaps in the irregular weave trim, so I'm not so worried about that. All right, there we go. We got this down. Now I'm going to tuck this in. I'm just going to trim it a tiny bit, and then I'm going to tuck it in. I'm going to trim it a little bit more, and then I'm going to tuck that in behind the leaf, like so. Yeah. All right, now I'm going to use minis, and I know that my sentiment is long enough, so I'm just going to add some minis right along the very top edge of that irregular weave trim. There's another reason why I'm missing my Take Your Pick tool right now, because I like to use it to pick the backings off my dimensionals. You know what's funny? It's probably right in front of my face. Yeah, Carissa, I am living on the edge. Hello, Lena. Thanks for tuning in. All right. Just going to tuck this in like so. Pull that out just a smidge. There. Okay. Wait, is that crooked? It looks a little crooked. I gotta fix that. It might just be me. My brain tells me this is slightly crooked. No, it's good enough. All right, now the leaves, which is what's going to make this card so beautiful, is I'm going to tuck these leaves in wherever I think they're going to be the prettiest. And then if my dimensionals are in the way, I'm just going to trim them. But it looks like I'm good. I can do it. I got it. I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of glue to the back of these metallic leaves. I don't need too much. And then I'll slide that in. Where did I have that? Right there. All right, next. Now I could have used an adhesive sheet when I cut these out, and then I would have made stickers, and that would have been even easier than gluing. But sometimes I'm lazy and I don't bring out the adhesive sheets because it feels like an extra step. All right, one more leaf, and then we're going to add some bling and our inside layer, and this card is done. So on Monday, I stayed up late to make sure I could order Stampin' Up's brand new Advent calendar. It's a 12 days of Christmas crafty Advent calendar. So I stayed up till 11 p.m. Pacific time because the market opened at midnight Mountain time. So that's 11 p.m. my time. So I stayed up. So did Carissa, but it was not 11 p.m. Carissa, was it 3 a.m. for you? It was crazy, crazy late. Anyway, I stayed up because I was convinced it was going to sell out before I woke up in the morning, and I couldn't handle it. So, and I wasn't the only one. Like, I was not missing out on this Advent calendar. Stampin' Up's never made one before, and I really had fear of missing out. So I stayed up, ordered the Advent calendar at like 11 minutes and a third of a second. Like, honestly, as soon as it opened up, I snapped up one of those Advent calendars, and then I went off to bed. And when I woke up in the morning, I was so tired for work, and work was hard that day. Like, I just felt out of sorts, not myself. And by the time I got home, I was feeling like I just chalked it down to not getting enough sleep because I love early bedtimes. I'm just adding some of the streaked dots to the card while I'm chatting away. Anyway, so I honestly chalked it all up to not getting enough sleep. And then by the time I drove home, I was feeling the chills. And when I get the chills, I know I've got a flu. And I took a COVID test, and sure enough, I had the COVID, and I felt so bad about it because I went to the office and unknowingly probably spread my COVID germs everywhere. So, but I just checked. Now I just posted this in the comments. If you haven't heard about the Advent calendar, I posted the link in there so you could check it out. It is still available. Carissa, we didn't have to stay up all night. You know, who knew? Who knew? But I thought for sure it was going to sell out. So I do not know how long it will be available for. I have no idea, but I know that they were still available 5 minutes before this live started. So if you've heard about it and you were interested or curious, then click on that link and you will get a little bit more information about the Advent calendar. And if you would like to order one and you live in Canada, you can use that link to order. And then you will also get a crafty gift from me. Now, if you are out east, then you should get a hold of my friend Carissa because you can order from her too. All right, now I'm just adding the inside layer to my card base. And this card is done. All right, project number 1 in the Amber Autumn card class at home. Next class will be Thursday. Next Thursday, what day will that be? It'll be in October. I just don't know the actual date. I don't have my calendar in front of me. At least I think it'll be October. Anyway, I'm going to do an autumn themed card until the end of October, every Thursday till the end of October, using the Amber Autumn bundle. And I'll also bring in some of the other elements from the, what is it called? Autumn for Toil suite that includes the Amber Autumn stamp set. So we're all autumny happening, flipping the camera around, for Thursday night. All right, Mondays will be something different. So this coming up Monday, I am going to feature the Love and Courage stamp set for breast cancer awareness. Now this is good timing for me actually because my mother-in-law is just going through breast cancer right now and she had a mastectomy last week. So this is her second mastectomy. So I am inspired to make some beautiful cards with this set. Now this again is a cling stamp set, which means I gotta take these apart and add the stickers to them, which, you know, isn't my favorite thing to do, but cling stamps just make such a nice, beautiful image that I'll get over it once I get them all put together. And then after these are all gone, you're not going to be able to get cling stamps anymore because Stampin' Up! Is having some trouble sourcing the red rubber. So we're just going to be photopolymer, which is like easy peasy. All right, Krista, you're going to case that card for your mom's birthday? Well, that's awesome. Thanks, Yolanda. I think it's pretty too, right? Very autumny. The metallic leaves really make it shimmer. All right, so before I let you go, if you might have already heard, because I'm sure all Stampin' Up! Demonstrators are talking about this, but coming in October is a ridiculous joining special. I have never seen it so low. You can join Stampin' Up! For $48. That's it. $48, and with that, you get to pick yourself out $165 in goodies. So for $48, you add to cart until you hit $165. Whatever you want, some exception. I think the only exception is paper pumpkin subscriptions. You can't add those to your starter kit, but you can add any stamp sets, even the stamp sets that are on pre-order that you normally wouldn't get to see if you're not a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. So that is happening October 1st. If you're in Canada and you would like to learn a little more or see if Stampin' Up! Is a good fit for you, then please reach out because I'd love to invite you to a virtual information session on Saturday via Zoom, just to learn a little bit more about the benefits of being a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Now, I do have a team. There are perks when you join my team. And I feel like extra lucky perks because I'm low on the totem pole. So you get perks from me as a team lead, but you also fall under my team leader's umbrella, Tanya, the Canadian Stamper. So you get perks from her. And then above us is Sue Phillips, and she invites all of our team into her circle as well. So when you're bottom of the totem pole like I am, I feel like I'm a good bet because then you get little perks from 3 different levels, from me, from Tanya, and from Sue. So yeah, I'm a sure thing. All right. So if you're in Canada, if you're interested, if you are wondering if it's a good fit for you, what it means to join up for Stampin' Up, then I'd love to talk to you more about it or invite you to the virtual info session with me Saturday, 1 p.m. Pacific time on Zoom. And you do not have to sell Stampin' Up to join Stampin' Up. That's a big thing I think that scares people. You do not have to go into it like you want to make a business out of it. You can jump into it and just use that discount that you get for yourself, for your feature craft purchases, but also be part of a community, which is the special thing about it is not necessarily, well, I mean, if you want to do a side gig and make some extra money on the side, that's great. And I love that for you. But if you're not interested, there's still this community piece that I think is really special. Carissa, I think you could agree with me on this one. The community is pretty cool. Like, I've made some really great friends just through crafting and through Stampin' Up. And it's not just about trying to sell craft supplies. So don't let that scare you. I think everybody who is buying craft supplies should probably think about joining up for this deal and getting yourself a 20% discount for at least the next 6 months while you're an active demonstrator with no strings attached and no requirement to sell if you don't want to. So that's that. If you're in Canada and this interests you, please reach out because I would love to talk more about it. And I think we got a pretty special team happening with the Rain or Shine Paper Crafters. That's my team. All right, friends, thanks so much for tuning in. I would love to see what you make. I'm going to post this video onto YouTube, and then right after that uploads, I'm going to share a photo of this on my Facebook page if you crafted along with whatever stamp set. It doesn't have to be Stampin' Up. You could be using anything in your stash. I'm not a Stampin' Up snob. I mean, I love Stampin' Up, but if you want to share what you're making and you're not using Stampin' Up supplies, I don't care. I just love to see what you make, right? So please share. And yeah, Chris said the community is way more, isn't it? There's a lot happening, and I think we all try to make it fun. The only complaint I have is that you live too far away and it's not cheap to fly. It's not cheap to fly. All right, friends, have a really good night, and I hope you guys tune in on Monday to see what I come up with the Love and Courage stamp set in honor of my mother-in-law. She's not even in any pain. She's such a trooper. She's just like had her surgery and she was like canning and puttering around in her kitchen days after. Like, I feel like I'd be out for weeks. Impressive, right? Impressive. I love her. All right, friends. Goodbye for now. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you all Monday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific.